on these matters. Now, Prof,
yes,
we do understand that that is exactly what the head of state claimed, that the country's economy is on the right trajectory. But as an expert of governance and strategy, tell us, what do you feel? Are we on the right trajectory?
You know what's happening, Adika?
Yes.
First and foremost, good economies begin by accepting the objective reality of an economy. So if someone who is as senior as a head of state does not accept the reality where we are objective reality, then how can you turn around an economy if you don't know where it is? I'm sure all of us had our career at some point, and there's a time you have to assess and realize this is where my career is. Then you have to make effort to grow it. So first of all, I would like to say that it depends on where the president is reading from. But truth be said, the following are important things to consider. Because as economists, in God we trust, the rest will bring data. So first and foremost, inflation is at 7%. It was at 4% when Uhuru left government. If you look at the interbank lending rate, it is now at 11.04%. It was around 4% when President Uhuru was the president. If you look at the unemployment rates, they have hit 36. Now they are moving to 37%. If you look at those figures, the economy has been revised to grow at 4.8. It was projected to grow at around 4.6% when 6.8% during Uhuru's time. So all these figures you're asking me, how do we believe the president that the economy is in a good trajectory when all this is happening? And let me just give you the implication of unemployment rate going down, unemployment rate going up, inflation has gone up, interbank lending rate has gone up, taxation has increased, and then inflation has gone up. If you look at all those figures together, you must realize something very important, is that there is no money in circulation. Because if there is high inflation, there is high interbank lending, because that's how people access money in the economy. And also if you look at high taxes being introduced, it means there's no money circulating, and that's why you see that people are really suffering. But you see, the people at central bank are being advised to increase interbank lending rate to really lower inflation. But if you lower inflation just by having a false interbanking rate, it means money cannot circulate, people's buying power cannot happen, and the Kenya shilling is dipping. The fact that you see the Kenya shillings dipping, in spite of the fact that they are trying to regulate the interbanking rate, it means that they are not doing very good job with regulating the interbanking rate, because it is affecting seriously the power of the Kenya shillings. Because purchasing power of the Kenya shillings is depreciating against the dollar. It's increasing our debt. Remember that any time that the Kenya shilling loses a unit against the dollar, we are adding 40 billion shillings in the debt book without borrowing a single shilling or a single dollar. And now we are seeing that by the time he took office, which was when the shilling was 120, now is 157. If you see that difference, it means that we have added around 1.8 trillion shillings to our debt book without borrowing, because of just the fluctuation between the dollar and the Kenya shillings. So if for him this means that the economy is doing very well, then maybe he's living in another world. Ask any woman, any man, ask any boda, ask mama mboga, ask any common man or woman on the street, ask them today, which is 5th of December, how was their life last year on 5th of December? They tell you their life is worse today than it was on 5th of December 2022. Meaning that if he's talking about right trajectory, let him show us what are the figures, what are the key performance indicators of a growing economy. If he lives in lagasse of the taxpayers' money, and his government is enjoying the lagasse of the taxpayers' money, now you see the other time he bought what they call Maybach. I saw another car also being shown is landing at the airport to go to him. If this is what he calls that the economy is doing well, then maybe his economy is doing well, but not Kenyan economy.
Interesting. Now, Prof, bring me down to, is it that the president or the government lacks good advisors, economic advisors, or is it a decision that they have made?
No, first of all, you have to understand that, Adika, I don't know where you come from, but let me assume that you come from Siaya, and you want to guide someone from Meru to go to Siaya. If you have the wrong map, it's not possible that person getting to Siaya.
Yes.
So remember that this government came to power in the backdrop of bottom-up economic model. Bottom-up economic model does not exist. It is a scam. Why am I saying it's a scam? For any economic model, for any theory whatsoever, we were in secondary school, even primary school. Yes. You heard about Pythagoras theorem, isn't it? Yes. Pythagoras theorem was introduced by who? By Pythagoras, isn't it? Yes. Now, the bottom-up economic model, do you know the author of this economic model?
Not really.
Do you know any book that has published bottom-up economic model? Is it Jomo Kenyatta Foundation?
Not known.
Is it Penguin Publishers? Which publication is it? So how do we run an economy based on an economic model which does not exist? We know how theory exists. People begin by hypothesis, isn't it?
Yes.
You test hypothesis using data, isn't it? It made a theory, then of that becomes a practical tool that can be used. Just like how people became with how to cook ugali. Somebody experimented with how water can mix with unga and produce something that you can eat. Then what do you eat it with? Somebody must have experimented how to eat with the omena or with skuma wiki, and now it becomes a meal.
Yes.
But here we are eating a meal that has never been experimented about. You understand? So how do we run our economy based on bottom-up economic model, which doesn't work, and then we expect to go somewhere? So first of all, it shows you that if you ask the question, are advisors right or wrong? Yes, they are completely wrong because, and they are deliberately wrong, because they know the truth. Professor Njuguna Ndung'u, who is the head of Treasury, is an economist. He's worked with the World Bank, he's worked with IMF, so there's nothing he doesn't know. David D, who is the chair of the Economic Council, did his economics PhD at Rhodes School of Business in Oxford. But you see, the problem is that these people have never advised government in power. And you know, David D and his Economic Council, all those people sitting there, they have never ever advised a government in power. Remember, they were economic activists. There's a difference between economic activists and hard-nosed economists. Hard-nosed economists are people like us who have been told, okay, Greece economy is bad. Can you go there and sort it out? When I was working with the European Central Bank, I went and did it. Italy, Portugal, Spain, the pigs, you see the pigs which has Portugal for P, I for Italy, G for Greece, and S for Spain. We help those countries as economies turning it around. So we can be credited with having done that. President Kibaki, who was a Kenyan economist, who is the father of the modern economy in Kenya, was a professor in economics. But also he worked very hard. He was a businessman. He was a minister for finance for a long time, and actually he really helped businesses to thrive. Under President Kibaki, we came out with the M-Pesa. And M-Pesa was seen to be an illegal means of doing things, but President Kibaki saw M-Pesa as something that can revamp the economy. Motorcycles you see running around, they call them boda boda. Yes. Those motorcycles, if not Kibaki, they could have not been the country. Yes. He's the one who saw they need to lower duty. So you are seeing someone like Kibaki who knew what to do. But you see, the president is not an economist. The president is more of a, you call it a botanist. So being a botanist, he cannot understand the economic models that need to work. And maybe these people are advising him and he can understand. You know, there's no way you can buy somebody's vision. Yes. When we are sitting here and the rabbit passes, then you see it's a white rabbit. When you begin chasing it, I can help you chase it, but if I don't see it, I've not seen it. Yes. So for me, that's why I went and wrote a book called Solomonic Economics. This Solomonic Economics, it simply tells you how an economy can be turned, especially developing countries' economies. Yes. And if you read the introduction from this book, you realize that Israel was actually facing hunger when Egypt was actually very common. If you look at the introduction here, you'll find that in Exodus 42, Exodus 42, 1 to 5, Jacob sent his sons to Egypt, and they were in Israel, telling them, go get for us grain, which is maize, from Egypt, so that we don't die. Meaning what? That Egypt was ahead of Israel. But look at happening now. Egypt is the other way around. Israel is more developed than Egypt. Also look at this way. The Son of God, Jesus Christ, was born in Israel. Then Herod wanted to kill him. Where was he taken for security?
Egypt.
Which means that Egypt had more security more than Israel. What are we trying to say here? That developing countries had really developed, isn't it? But there are some things we got wrong. Leadership we got wrong. We got issues with our economic model wrong. So we need to go back to our Solomonic economics, where everything began right, isn't it? Because Egypt taught the world to become industrialized and modern. And in fact, if you look about, there are a lot of mathematical theories came from Africa. Africa was more developed. So I'm trying to say, when we went to borrow the model from IMF and World Bank, which is currently running the current government, IMF and World Bank, even as an economist, there is no single country where IMF has gone and World Bank and made it better. There is no single country.
Hey, you're bringing me to my next point.
So we are trying to say that the issue is that they are using the wrong map to try to find the true north of Kenya, and that map is so misleading that we can urge Kenya Kwanza government to drop that map and pick the right map so that they can go to the right direction.
Now, there's been this issue of blame game that has been ongoing, that the former president left the country's economy in a very poor state. Now, is it time for blame game, or is it time for the government to look for a way to revive this economy? And just you've brought up the issue to do with the IMF and World Bank. Now, the government is set to receive close to 2 trillion as loans from the two lenders. And the economists are saying this is not the right move, as it will cripple our economy even further. So,
first of all, before we leave the blame games, let us still clarify the facts. We have to realize that in the first 8 months of President William Ruto's presidency, he borrowed 1.2 trillion shillings. And in the same period, the same 12 months of Uhuru's presidency, he only borrowed something like 483 billion shillings, which means Ruto must have borrowed almost 3 times in the same year, in the same period of time, what Uhuru borrowed. So if borrowing, they are saying that they are going to have another narrative here that we have to clarify, that they are overtaxing Kenyans because they are overpaying loans. The truth of the matter is that if you look at what Nation reported yesterday, there was a misreporting of Nation yesterday when they say that our debt that Moi left us with was around Kibaki left us 1.79 trillion. Uhuru left us with 8.7 trillion, and then Ruto is operating at 10.58 trillion. The truth be said, that the one for figures for Kibaki is correct. The one for Uhuru is not correct. And the one for Ruto is also equally not correct. I don't know where Nation is getting our figures from. Linda Jami, where I'm the president, took the government to court to explain the disparities in the debt. Because according to Appropriation Act, you cannot borrow money without appropriation in funding, isn't it? You have to go through a parliament to borrow money. So parliament must approve. That's why parliament even set the borrowing ceiling. According to parliament, Kenya has official debt 2.1 trillion. That's the official debt, according to parliament. But if you go to Treasury, they report 6.1 trillion. But if you go to State House, they report 10.58 trillion, meaning that there is something wrong here. And we went to court so that the Treasury can come clean to explain to Kenyans what is actually our debt. So when you are telling us we are paying so much, we might actually paying nothing. If we have already passed the ceiling, how can we receive 2 trillion shillings without passing? So I'm telling you, there's a legal debt, and some of this legal debt is so high, like some of them have even borrowed at an interest rate of 50%. How can you lend to a government money at an interest rate of 50% interest rate? There must be something really wrong. Yes. So, first of all, the facts are wrong. So we should not even be listening to these guys. All these things are scams and propaganda. The truth of the matter is official debt for Kenya should be 2.1 trillion because there are people who borrowed money on their own, but the money never came to Kenya. Remember the money now, you see, they have just said that the Reserve Bank of America is constituting money which was done in Eurobond. Somebody went and got the money from Eurobond, and the money never came to Kenya. He took it where he wanted it, but Kenya needs to pay it. You know what's happening, my brother Dika? It's like someone asking you to vomit bread, and you never took bread for breakfast, or even for lunch or for dinner. So how can we cough money which never came to our economy? If $1 billion never arrived in Kenya, yet we are supposed to pay it, what does that mean? And there are so many debts which were taken on our behalf, which we don't know where that money went to. So there's a lot of discrepancies in this debt thing. So even that's not the issue. Now, when you ask about the issue of whether we should stop the blame game, yes, we should. And I've been telling the president with advice, honest advice as a friend. Because you know what, my brother? The president needs to succeed now. Those people wishing him to fail are not Kenyans. Because if the president fails today, there are so many kids who can go to school because of the economy failing. There are so many people who die of hunger. Even if you want it for selfish reason, that later you become a leader or the president. I mean, even us, we have ambitions. Even myself had ambition of being president. But I should not allow him to fail so that I take over. Because if you take over, there are two things. First of all, you're taking over an economy which has failed. Secondly, what do you do about the people who already died of hunger? What about the kids who can go to school whose future has been ruined because of that? What about the young people who are so unemployed? You know, we are not far from Embakasi here. You saw the other day that 7,000 people turned up to look for a job of 100 people. It shows you that it is a crazy, crazy time we are living. So we want the president to succeed, and therefore what I'm trying to ask him as a friend, economy fears noise, so why don't he breathe positivity in the economy? I'm sure, Adik, I don't know whether you are married. When you get married, you discover that it's about just showing people hope. You have to show your husband, your wife, that there is hope. Even if you are broke, we ask you for money, don't tell them we are done. Tell her that I think things are looking good. We're going to overcome this situation. So why don't Kenyans join hands with the president and everyone to talk about Kenya positively, economically? Not that we are denying the truth, but let us talk about what we have now. How can what we have take us where we want to be? Because that should be the main focus. But every time preaching and said the previous administration killed the economy, this is 1 year down the line. Even if you took somebody's girlfriend and you continue saying that that person brought this girl when she was dirty, there's been soap. There have been enough forum for you to make her clean up. So why don't you take this woman, clean her up, even if you believe that she wanted some help, even for you as a man. If you get another girlfriend who is clean, no men were always being seen not very clean. They say, oh, you know, for you guys, you don't know how to do this and that. Why don't that woman help you become the best husband that she wants, isn't it? Or you make that woman become the best wife you want. Normally when you inherit somebody's girlfriend, you cannot start complaining about the ex-boyfriend. You understand? But the president also has realized that President Uhuru Kenyatta spoiled Kenyans, and Kenyans are high maintenance people. Subsidies were given to Kenyans. So they are still waiting for the same subsidies. But what I'm trying to say in short, Kibaki was an economist. He never spent a minute blaming the Kenyan government or the previous administration, Moi's government that was seen to be among the worst in economy, for what they did. He just focused on what can he do, and the president just need to focus on what can they do. Because remember, there are people who still love President Uhuru Kenyatta. When you continue shouting against the President Uhuru Kenyatta, you are simply creating animosity with them. You forgive the president, he was your friend, you are in government with him together, focus on work, ask him where he can help you. All all of us are Kenyans. He's still a Kenyan. Let us work as a team. Let's all of us market our country. I want to see a time when young people can go on Twitter and say, please come visit my country. Please come and invest in my country. Please save in our country. Come and live in our country. Come and work in our country.
Yeah.
But if all of us are shouting that Kenya is unlivable, is unworkable, it is uneducatable, then all of us are putting poison in Kenya and telling people to invest in our country. It's impossible. And that's why with all his foreign trips, you can see the president is very popular out there. In fact, he's in Dubai. I'm being told that he's stealing all the shows abroad. But domestically, he's not stealing any show. Remember that he's thinking that we're having these overseas trips, and the popularity is creating overseas, he will attract investors and therefore increase our foreign direct investment. But I'm not seeing any correlation between foreign trips and foreign direct investment, meaning it's not working. Focus on domestic situations and you'll attract foreign direct investment, because Kenyans are also, people want to come to Kenya to invest because they know Kenyans cannot buy. If you have no buying power, the dollar to the Kenyan shillings is hitting you. Inflation is very high. The shilling has lost around 17% of its value, meaning that what you could have bought last year, you cannot afford it now. People used to tell me, with the 200 shillings, you go to a fuel station and buy 2 liters of fuel and put in a motorcycle. Now, you cannot buy 2 liters of fuel with 200 shillings to put in a motorcycle, and therefore, no one can start moving. And baby, let me just tell you something that happened. I was in Siaya for 1 week. Then there's a time I was moving between Rangala, heading towards Siaya town, in this place called Ndere, and my car stalled. It was at night. I tried to call all taxis to come. They told me, Professor, I have a taxi, but I didn't sleep with fuel. So it means that everyone uses the fuel until the end of the day, take the money they had, buy dinner, and sleep. Then tomorrow they expect that when they wake up, someone sends some money, they can fill the cars and move. And no, fuel stations also close throughout the night, meaning that there is no economic movement taking place, economic activity taking place at night. They all see a town. It shows you there's something happening about the economy that we need to come and salvage this economy.
It is that serious. Now, Professor, bring me back to the issue that we are currently facing, that Azimio leader Raila Odinga went to court to oppose the issue to do with the selling of state farms. The 11 parastatals, one of them being KICC. We have Moya Rice, a milling company. We do have Kenya Seed, which has really been important for years now. Now, opposition chief Raila Odinga has opposed this because of the figures, what the government is meant to make out of it, 11 billion, 110 billion Kenya shillings. Now, is it worth looking at the amount the government will make out of it?
No, first of all, there are two ways to look at the worth. Sometimes it's not the worth, but sometimes means the hemorrhage. If I look at it economically, let me first of all look at it economically, then move sentimentally. Economically, if you are just looking at how much money you are going to receive and say it does not worth, you are looking at how much money you are likely to lose if you continue keeping them. For example, if you own a car, and this car, because of the maintenance, it takes away from you 200,000 shillings a year in maintenance. But this car costs 700,000. So even if you sell it, you cannot buy another car with it, isn't it? So you can say, I cannot sell this car because with 700,000 price it can fetch, I can't even buy another car, so let me keep it. But you are not looking at how much you are hemorrhaging by owning this car. So Raila Odinga's argument is not economical. So that does not make sense to me. Because the value of an asset is not about the cost of that asset. The true value of an asset is about the operating cost. What am I trying to say? Do you know, Adika, you can buy a building, initial cost of the building can be 100 million shillings. But you have another building where the initial cost of acquisition can be 200 million. Now, if the operating cost of the 100 million building is around 1 million per year, you understand? But it's cheaper to acquire. On the other side of building, which is 200 million shillings to acquire, the operating cost around 200,000. Don't you think you're better off having the building which is 200 million than buying a building which is 100 million, because you realize that in the end, by having a low operating cost, you can make money every month, isn't it, from that building that you can go on. So the cost of running these state corporations has been high because the inefficiencies in government. And therefore, I wouldn't look at it from just the point of saying how much money can you fetch. The value, what you call the capital expenditure, should not be the main way to measure the value of an asset. You should look at the operating expenditure. So having said that, we now move, that's economic one. We now move to sentimental one. Sentimental one, of course, these are very iconic places. You know, when you sell a KICC, the owner might even name it what they want. We might lose a lot of, let's say, our kids need to see this. Do you know when we were young boys went to took photos in KICC, with you putting your hands as if you are touching on top of the tower, and you send the photo home in an album? It was iconic. So do you want to deny our children's this thing? I think maybe it's not fair. Remember also our founding father, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, is actually almost, he's immortalized there. So will someone still want to see his statue there? You might see so many things that we cannot be in control of. Of course, you expect that you can enter in agreement by telling somebody, don't do this, do this. But as long as someone owns something, they do the way they want. So for sentimental value, we would not want to do that. But assets like Kenya Pipeline, those are very, very, very lucrative assets. By the way, one of the most important, income generating organization is Kenya Pipeline. So according to me, I don't think that the intention of the president to sell these assets is actually to cure the economic problem we have, given Raila's argument. But the main thing could be, how can you make your money and move? Are you here to grab, sell, make money, go away with it? So if the intention is more of, you are looking at saying, I'm in this house, someone might come to occupy of this house because the president is not sure whether he's winning the next election. What can I sell when I'm president? Make money with it. So even if I lose, even everyone else has lost. Is it the mentality? For example, Simba, if you are in EBN TV and EBN TV has given you a house where you live, then you hear rumors you'll be fired after 1 month. Do you start destroying that house because you know when you leave you won't get anything? But what if your child is one told, now Simba, now Adika, that house where you are staying, now we are going to put your son. Will you not regret? So what if someone so dear to the president takes over this? So I'm trying to say that intention is not good. But let me tell you one thing which is important. Forget about the sentimental and economic one. As an economist, can privatization of public corporation solve the issue? The answer is no. And as an economist, again, I'll give you data. Do you know the country that has privatized most of their public corporations? It's UK. Yeah, in UK, the subway is privatized. The bus companies are privatized. The electricity company is privatized. The water company is privatized. They are privatized more than anybody else.
And that's
so, no. They are not doing well. Why? Why do people privatize? One is to ensure the government services are cheaper and affordable and accessible to the citizens. These things are not affordable, are not accessible by the citizens of this country. They're paying more for it, and actually at inflationary rate of around 20%, meaning that whatever services you are getting from these public operations, the prices will go up by around 20%. Isn't it? Meaning that the cost of offering them to the citizens will go higher. Two, the other thing is that you might find that the government might actually end up spending more money than it is. For example, if you sell Kenya Pipeline and movement of fuel from Mombasa to Nairobi to Malava is still, if you like, a government service. What if the company that has acquired that pipeline mismanages it and goes under? You will have to come back again and salvage the company. For example, if you sell Kenya Power, can you say, oh, Kenya Power has gone under? That's up to them. You can't say that. You have to come back again, fork money from your pocket and bring them. And that's what happened in UK. All the public corporations they sold, they have again have to resuscitate them using taxpayers' money, and you have nothing you can do. Because if they are not functioning, even you as a head of state, you cannot have power at home.
Yes.
So public sector being by nature common good, and also being by nature mostly monopolies, they should never be sold, because one, you earn dividends. For example, there are dividends that we get from Kenya Pipeline, isn't it? That comes to finance our budget. They will never come there because they are now going to the person you bought it to. And now, what are the income we are going, what are the alternative income we are going to earn when we sell public operation that has been giving us income in our budget? You see, that's the main question the president has not answered in this privatization. If you used to earn money from Kenya Pipeline, if you sell it off, that one-off money you are going to receive, it will go, actually they'll go in the 1 year budget, because the government does not save money. Government has no savings account. So you won't tell me you're going to save this, you're going to eat it little by little. And because the president is saying they're in a deep hole, that money will go to that hole one day. The day they are going to receive the check, they'll go to that hole, then we go another hole. So it's not a sustainable solution to sell them. And for me, if you ask me, if you cannot even run State House where they're running in losses, you cannot be able even to run KICC, you cannot be able to run the Kenya Pipeline. Can you run government? Because for me, this is the main question. Government is more a bigger issue than selling these small corporations. So for me, if you ask me, and it's actually in Solomonic economics, some of these entities that we are having here have been sold before. If I was head of state, I would take that KICC, give that tender to a religious organization. They have done better in South America. They have done better in the US. Give it, for example, to Muslims to run it. But it is yours, but to give them management contract. So I would just bring Muslims, Hindus, Christians, all religious organizations, and form a religious organization board. Then put this non-performing corporation under that religious board. It will rid off of corruption, because that's why they are going under. It will rid off of tribalism. It will rid off about the procurement issues. Will bring more efficiency and effectiveness, and they start performing. Selling them is un-Solomonic, and Solomonic economic model has a solution for it right here. Let the president just take this book, read the chapter on institutional mechanism for implementing Solomonic economic model, and it will change it. For example, Kenyatta National Hospital. If I'm the head of state, I won't run it. I'll just bring religious organizations, give them a contract. For example, you see MAT also run by sisters. They're doing very well, isn't it? Some of these public universities that are not misperforming, religious organizations have been very good in running education centers. They have been very good in running institutions. I'll take all these state houses that are in Nairobi, Mombasa, put them under a religious organization to use them partly for retreat. So when the president is coming, he has his own wing. But it's a retreat center for religious organizations and other people. They are in very lucrative areas. So what I'm trying to say is that there is a solution that can solve it. It's a very Solomonic solution. Let us not just run by saying, let us sell. Sell is easy, but you'll need those services, and you might not access them if you sell them just the way you're doing it.
Nice. That is Professor Fred Ogola. He's actually speaking what he does, what he practices. Now, according to his book, Solomonic Economics, just trying to tell you that there are better options of reviving our country's economy. We don't just have to restrict ourselves to selling or rather finding other solutions that won't be a long-term solution to our economy, as many Kenyans continue suffering. Now, Professor, bring me back to the issue to do with the bipartisan talks. We do understand that the cost of living was actually a major issue that Azimio was saying we will not start any conversation if we don't start with the cost of living. And they forced Kenya Kwanza actually to focus on the cost of living. But then at the end of it all, the report was released. But then we are missing somewhere. And Jeremiah Kioni addressed the issue saying that Kenyans did not go to the streets for the positions. We went to make sure that the cost of living is addressed. But the two teams failed to agree on reducing the 16% to 8%. Or rather, are Kenyans really at the center of this country? Are we the main focus?
You see, Adika, it's very clear that when the bipartisan committee were when the bipartisan talks was just initiated, Linda Jamie called a press statement and said they are calling for multi-partisan, not bipartisan. Bipartisan means two people. And if you look at it, it went to two people. Kalonzo and Ichung'wah co-chairs, isn't it? And it was actually Azimio versus Kenya Kwanza. Were there any other partners which were not there? Of course. The Mama Mboga, the Boda, the youths went to the street were not there. Who represented them? The private sector that suffered the brunt of the mandamanos were not there. Remember, the business were being destroyed. Remember, they could not open their shops on that day. Also, you have to remember the civil society that was trying to be a voice during the time when these guys were fighting were never involved. Religious organizations, they were not involved because there was this shambolic thing by telling people, come present your memoranda to us in Bomas. So they were considered. Because Linda Jamie came out with the economic formula on how to lower the cost of living, on how to be able to pay debt, deliver on the budget of 3.6 trillion without increasing taxation and without overborrowing. We had a formula, like an economic arithmetic formula. But you see what? When we present our our memorandum to the NADCO team, we're the first to get it stamped. Number one, I can even show you. Italy is as number 001. We are the 001. But what happens is, we were never called. Later, I received a call by saying, Professor, we have received your memorandum as written. But why were you not allowed to explain to them how to keep a cost of living? So if you ask me, the formation itself, wanasema siku mbaya ama nzuri inaanza asubuhi. Just by its formation, it was not to solve cost of living. So the second thing is that the Ichung'wah and Kalonzo-led committee, tell me the two sides. Did you see an economist in any side of them?
No.
They were all politicians, isn't it? And politicians, if you look at parliament, they are devoid of any economic understanding. They don't understand these things. Secondly, they were given a technical committee, isn't it? Technical committees were mostly lawyers to draft the document very well, and two, communication strategists to bring propaganda around the whole thing. There was no economists involved. And for us at Linda Jamie, we insisted, we want the Treasury CS to sit in the panel discussing about cost of living, because if you don't bring in Treasury, where is money coming from? Because they have to explain to Professor Njuguna Ndung'u, if you lower these things from 16 to 8, how can we still collect revenue so that we can finance the economy? Remember that even if you demand, you cannot just demand a right, even if the right will infringe on other rights. So you have to come with a formula of saying, well, let's remove it from 16 to 8, and then revenue will come through this way, or we shall cut this or that budget. So we have to find a way on which you balance your budget. Remember that the budget had been read, isn't it? So how do you deal with it? So for me, the cost of living was never the case. In fact, for this is the only time I disagree with Azimio on this, because Raila Odinga says he's demanding cost of living. Kioni says he demands a cost of living. They are members of Azimio. They nominated Kalonzo. And Kalonzo signed the report. So do you have to tell me Kalonzo signed the report without permission of Raila? Do you have to tell me Kioni's voice in the signing of the report was not there? So it is a way just to manage Kenyans, but according to me, is when I now agree with the Gachagua. Gachagua said that the agreement between Raila and Ruto was done in Mombasa. So everything else we are seeing here is nothing. And he said there's nothing coming from Bomas. I said, I'm saying it as the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. So it's coming to pass that actually they are. And I heard something saying that, I heard them now as Azimio starting to manage us by saying, in spite of the fact that we didn't get cost of living, but there was some other framework that was introduced by these bipartisan that produced something genius. There was no stock of genius. If you look at all the 5 things there, you wonder whether this is something needed to take people those weeks chewing taxpayers' money. For example, there was the issue of IBC. They say we shall do an audit. Before the Bomas talks, we're supposed to do an audit, isn't it? After the talk, we shall supposed to do an audit. So what were they discussing it in Bomas, isn't it? If you look at about the issue of inclusion, isn't it? Which was key, inclusion of people in government, isn't it? What did they come up with? They were supposed to come with a formula, isn't it? The gender rule, the issue of women participation into governance, isn't it? Because that has been the gender imbalance.
Yes.
There was no genius there, but of course we, as what Linda Jami came with the formula, is the zebra listing of members of parliament when they are joining. In appointing position, they should also a zebra listing where you say man, woman, youth, isn't it? Because you look at the current cabinet of President William Ruto, it has not met the requirement for the youth.
Yes.
Youth should be 5%. And then you find women should be 5%. People with disability should be 5% also. None of that has been met, yet it is functioning. In fact, I am telling young people, and if you are listening to me, this is our time. Let's come together as young people and take over this country and run it, because for a long time we shall be taken for granted.
Yes.
I'm ready to lead you in this process. That's why Linda Jami is leading you in this process. We can take political power and show these people that we can do more, because statistics show, by the way, Dika, that young people are 3 times more likely to be unemployed than their counterparts. And this is not just in Kenya. This is globally.
Yes.
Because look at Uruto's cabinet. Tell me if there's a youth there.
None.
Now go to the PSS. Is there youth there? CAS the ones which were rejected. Kidero, who is like my grandfather, is a CAS, isn't it? When will we get there? Ongwari, isn't it? Look at those people who have been nominated there. Look at the Justice Muturi, who is the Attorney General. He was a speaker for 10 years.
Yes.
Then he transitions to become Attorney General for 10 years. Where are the young people? So for me, young people, we need to wake up. Let us not be told, oh, who has money? Because the guy is going to come and buy you, then you continue to languish in poverty. Why don't we young people just fast and sacrifice? That's called focused poverty. You have to have a focused poverty so that you can become rich. So the people who buy you because you know that Fred Ogola is a young man like you, he can't buy you. Then somebody who is older comes, buys you and take leadership, then you begin begging. Why don't we come together and remove our stomach this now and just wake up on that day of election and vote ourselves into office? I want young people to be in the MCAs. I want young people to be governors. I want young people to be senators. In fact, our political movement will be more concerned about how young people can be elected as MCAs, as a women rep, senators, governors, because these guys, they have been in government since 1992. Remember, I've been telling people, the problems of Kenya did not begin with this Kenya Kwanza government.
Yes.
The problem was planted in 1992. Youth for Kenya 1992. Look at who he produced. Ruto is the president, isn't it? Youth for Kanu 92 has produced Jirongo, isn't it?
Yes.
You can count those people. I don't want to go there, but I'm trying to say that our problems began in 1992. And to tell you why our problems cannot be solved by either Azimio or Kenya Kwanza, young people listen carefully. In 2008, Kibaki was the president. Yes. I was Kibaki's economic advisor. Our biggest problem was how to manage these people who are telling you they can solve our problem. Kibaki was so straight on economics, but they were just destructive. One, remember that Raila Odinga was the prime minister in that government, isn't it? Two, Kalonzo Musyoka was a vice president, isn't it? Musalia Mudavadi was deputy president and was a minister, isn't it? Uhuru Kenyatta was the deputy president and was a minister. Amartha Karua was a minister. Moses Wetangula was a minister. All those guys you see in Kenya Kwanza and Azimio were in Kibaki's government, distracting Kibaki from executing his policy as a head of state. So if you're expecting something from these people, you wait for forever. Ni kama wanasema kungoja ferry kufika airport. Wajua ferry will never land in the airport. Yes. So according to me, young people, let me tell you one thing. The change that has taken place between the age of 25 and 55. No one has changed the world outside that age. Martin Luther King was in that age. Malcolm X was in that age. Mahatma Gandhi was in that age. Barack Obama was in that age, because Barack Obama was the first black African American to be elected president. He made a mark. Look at the guys who have made big transformation even in our country in the area of technology, music. Look at Eliud Kipchoge. Look at the sportsmen. young people are so talented, 1 in sports, 2 in music, 3 in arts, 4 in technology.
Yes.
With all this giftedness and talent we have, you cannot see an old man running 100 meters. Will they? No, they can't. So the only person who can make Kenyans proud is the youth. Why don't the youth come together and come with the same vision? They wake up and win a marathon at an age which is tender. Also make us take over the government instead of leaving our government to old people who are only managing their assets which they have already amassed through either good means or bad means, God knows what. I don't know.
Now, we do understand that the country currently is suffering economically.
Yeah.
But we also have the issue to do with the youth can come together.
Yeah.
But then there's this issue that actually when you look at it closely, the benefit is actually not significant.
Yeah.
If you are in that position, would you go for the Hustler Fund as an intervention of employment or helping the youth?
No, let me tell you one time. In the Solomonic economic model, again, right here, we talk about that the Hustler Fund was not the right thing to do. What was Hustler Fund supposed to address? 1 was job creation, isn't it? And 2, when you create jobs, also you create employment. You create businesses. You make economy vibrant. So the tool to cure that was not Hustler Fund. What we need to do, as I promise here, is that why don't we lower our taxes in Kenya? 2, lower the government expenditure, because when you lower taxes, you must also lower something.
Yes.
You have to lower government expenditure. Like I did a calculation by saying this government moves on 1,625 vehicles per day. You understand? For example, Gachago has 30, Musalia Mudavadi has 15, all ministers have 7 each, all PSS have 5 each. Economic Council, if you just do that math, is 1,226 vehicles in a day. Now, because of fuel, they do 150 liters per day, isn't it? And also they do services in total Kenya at 300,000 shillings per month, or sometimes after every 3 weeks. That is total of 96.8 billion shillings a year just in keeping the government on vehicle. I've not counted the president because the president is exceptional. Now, if you do that months, you don't need that vehicle. You can actually cut that budget by 1/3 and save 62 billion shillings, isn't it? Now, with saving 63 billion shillings per year, there's so much that you can be able to do with that. You lower the taxes, there'll be foreign direct investment, isn't it? Secondly, let's invest in vocational training. What is vocational training? If you go to the US and look for tooling engineers, for example, you see this your laptop, which is HP. How do you connect the different parts, keyboard together? Americans don't know that, but Chinese were trained to do that. That's why all Apple computers are made in China. iPhones are made in China. China has become the workshop of the world. Why? Because there are people who can fix things together. Even this cup could have been made in China. Even sometimes the equipment you're using in your TV station here could have been used in China. Why don't we invest in vocational training to create workforces for multinationals to come to Kenya, employ our young people, and make our economy vibrant when young people can work? That's a very simple formula. That's what you have to do, just creating business environment. Unfortunately, with high taxation, unstable tax policy, unstable fiscal policy, and noise in the economy, Kenya is the worst in ease of doing business. In Africa, Kenya only beats South Sudan. That is statistics you can check for yourself. We are only better than South Sudan, which is the youngest country in Africa. So if you create all these things, you'll find young people can actually be able to get a job, and you empower young people. As you leave that aside, young people are the best people to have in an economy. Do you know why? They rarely get sick. When did you go to hospital last?
I can't remember.
You know what I mean? But you see, these older people, they tend to be so much baggage. Remember, do you know how much money the government spends on paying medical bills for the officers in government? A lot. That's why they even have teeth allowance, they have eye allowance. Even their teeth is being checked then. I'm not saying it's bad to take our young people, older people, but there's a way that can be sorted. We are not here to take care of elderliness in terms of creating jobs for older people when we kill the young people. So according to me, young people being in the economy, they are more vibrant, they have energy. they are more talented, they are more resilient, they are more creative, they can come with new ideas. The more you have young people next to me, that's why if you see Linda Jamii next to me, you find that there's Sankara there. Yes. He puts pressure on me, tell me, Professor, you can't do this and that, and I understand him. So if I was having only older people next to me, who would suggest to me something, who would challenge me, who would give me new ways? In fact, Sankara suggested we need to come to this studio. You see, that's young people say, friend, I know you like talking to the mainstream media houses, but can you go to EBN at least so that we can talk to young people? You see, those are new ideas coming from young people. I told you, sports, music, arts, technology, it's young people. They're already having enough that if you just have a good policy, you can grow them. Yes. But taking over also leadership is because we have said for a long time we need to have young people in leadership. Even put in the constitution, they're not listening. Yes. So what the next thing to do? We need to now come together as young people, also have a political party which is more of young people, run by the young people. Let them know, saying when you go to these mega parties like, let's say, ODM, UDA, whenever they are choosing a ticket, they tell you, Kijana, you're still very young, leave for so and so, so that we can advance. Yes. Like now you hear that Raila says he might run again, or he might give to Kalonzo. Yes. So has Raila suggested to give to a young person? So Kalonzo also says, me, I can't wait any longer. So you'll find the lineup in these parties will never be about the young people. Yes. So if we have our own young people, the ticket can be given to an MCA, young person, senator, young person. Let us start building. We should not just be there begging. You, young person, will be used in a political party for many years and you have no party. Let's come together and form our own political party, and then we can be able to chart a champion. And also let us also be checked. Is it that we lack leadership, or we are just making noise when leadership and we are unable? Yes. Let's also try it out, because leadership must be tried. You cannot just be shouting and blaming other people, yet you don't want to take leadership positions. Interesting. Now, Professor, as we wind up, I do understand that you have an upcoming event as this month. Yes. Yes. Tell us a little bit about it. So, dear viewers, I think I want to take this chance to just call upon you to join us in the Linda Jamii Peace Marathon. In the Linda Jamii Peace Marathon, the main idea we have discovered that, like I said earlier, economy fears noise. In Luo, we say pesa oluoro koko. Yes. The first liberation was done with violence. That was about getting independence. The second liberation was done using violence. That's about the reforms we have. But now, we don't need any noise. We don't need to fight. No one should go to the street to shout or throw a stone. We need peace so that money can come. Imagine if a plane was on top of Africa, and when the pilot looks down, he sees noise in Kenya, he sees peace and calm in Tanzania or Uganda, the plane will go there. Yes. And if that plane is carrying money, money will not come. So the dollar is having a problem with the Kenya shillings because there's a lot of noise in Kenya. So when the dollar is about to land, that dollar goes to Tanzania, goes to Uganda, goes to other countries. So we are looking for ways on which we can also help our government. Instead of fighting all the time, it has come to a time where we can ask not what your government can do for you, but what can you do for your government. So I'm asking everyone, young people out there, when we come for this marathon, first we shall peace by running. Secondly, we went through Mandamano. Some people died. Some people lost property. Some people got injuries. Like as I speak now, there are 9 people who got bullet on their bodies right now. Since Mandamano, they still have a bullet in their body because they have no money to do operation. So we're raising funds for this so that at least we can be able to pay for them their medical bills. Some get operated, and then people can live life. And we also move away from there by saying we have been there with empathy with our friends, brothers and sisters who suffered these different challenges. Yes. Yeah. Many thanks. We will join you. Come then. That has been Professor Fred Ogolla, the president of Linda Jamii, and also an expert on matters, strategy and governance expert. Thank you for coming through this morning and helping us understand the trajectory that President William Ruto has been claiming that the country is on. Yeah. And one of the things he said last week is that we are headed on a good side, but then he said starting this December, many Kenyans will start feeling the impact of his interventions. Now we do hope that you've got exactly what Professor Fred Ogolla has been sharing with us, some of the things that the government can do, and also you as a youth out there, your role
you've got a role to play to make sure that the country moves on, be it economically, politically, and also socially, so that we can have a better Kenya. Until next time, many thanks for tuning in. Once again, my name is Samia Dika. Do have a wonderful day ahead.